Is weird, odd, strange, or just plain bizarre is really your cup of tea? Then the Golden State Media Concepts Weird News Podcast will give you that fix. Can't believe it? Well, listen for yourself as we deliver the strangest news you definitely won't find on CNN or Fox. It's the Golden State Media Concepts Weird News Podcast.
Hello and welcome to the GSMC Weird News Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I am your host, Sarah, joined, as always, at least for the last few episodes.
I'm like relatively new here. I'm Tate.
But you're my new co-host, so as always, going forward and stuff.
I will be a permanent fixture here, always.
Always.
Which is scary, because my head is a very, very scary place.
Oh, that's true.
Speaking of scary places.
What's up?
I propose that we do not do a news article. I'm just going to give you weird news from the top of my head.
Weird news from the top of your head. So if I had to guess, I would guess this is something from history.
I'm a big history buff.
It's either something from history or something. Okay, with you it could be anything, frankly. I'm going to stick with something from history.
So you're absolutely right. I'm just going to think about a couple. I came up with a couple of things off the top of my head.
Okay.
That I know that very few people know, and it is definitely weird news. Which makes my head a scary place.
It is. Your head is a scary place, but I'm going to tell the listeners something that I know about you.
All right.
He doesn't sleep.
I do not sleep.
He doesn't sleep, so he has reached the end of the internet like 6 times. He tells me this all the time. I've reached the end of the internet. There's nothing else to read. It's never true. He always finds something else to read, and this is why his brain is this crazy assortment of facts.
Yes, I am king of worthless information.
You should have business cards made.
You know what? That is true. I just wanted to see one time if I could qualify for Jeopardy when they were here in San Francisco, and I did.
Oh.
I didn't go on.
You didn't go on?
No.
Interesting.
But
you could have been like, what's his face? The guy that's just been winning, Holzhauer?
They didn't do that back then. It was like you were like if you won, you could only win, I think it was like 5 days in a row, and then you were done.
Oh.
Now it's just, you just go on until the wheels fall off.
Wow.
So we're going to talk about, and I'm going to ask you questions.
Okay.
And I've kind of given you a little heads up on this, but I'm really asking the audience because the questions I hit you with, you were a little surprised on. My first question to you and the audience is, what were graham crackers' original purpose?
Well, obviously they were made for preschoolers. They're perfect.
They were made for little grandmothers to give out to little kids. Is that what you're telling me?
Yeah, you dunk them in milk. They're very yummy.
So.
I know that's not the right answer.
That is definitely not the right answer.
Much more innocent than the real one.
And most people out there are probably thinking like, yeah, there's those little nice little crackers. They're kind of sweet. Little graham, little honey with them. The graham cracker was originally created as a medicine to treat, not a cold, not sniffles. It was a medicine created to treat.
Well, now I don't know if it was a medicine.
It was a part of a diet. It was treatment for curing masturbation. So, Dr. Graham created a diet that mainly was the graham cracker was the original first part of that diet, and then it expanded into a full-fledged diet. But graham crackers were created to actually cure and stop women from masturbating.
Everyone.
Which was a sin. It expanded to everyone later. So, when I told Sarah this, she naturally thought you're a dirty-minded man who is undermining the beautiful graham cracker, and you're lying. So I left it up to Sarah because I fear no evil, and I said, Sarah, prove me wrong.
So it was, graham crackers were originally invented in the early 1800s by a Presbyterian minister by the name of Sylvester Graham, who introduced the snack item as part of his then radical vegetarian diet, which eschewed white flour and spices. And this was because he believed it would end the scourge of his time, as he called it. And in that time, they very colloquially called it self-abuse.
Self-abuse, yes. Better known as
masturbation.
I was going to give it a more colorful name, so thank you.
Oh, okay. You were going to do one of those terrible euphemisms?
Yes.
Graham himself was one of 17 children, and so he found sexual urges of any kind something that should be repressed.
Graham never got his freak on. I'm just going to let y'all know this.
He was as repressed as they come. So he concluded by some combination of pseudoscience and faith, that's all it was, that a vegetarian diet consisting of fruits, vegetables, limited dairy, and bland starches would result in an end of lustful behavior.
Now, see, he's wrong. All those carbs is going to make the booty and the breasticles bigger, which is going to make people want to do more things.
The word breasticles?
It's gonna, so it fires up those urges, doesn't tone them down.
Well, Graham was one of those who argued that masturbation, self-love, led to insanity and blindness. Now, I've heard blindness, but insanity? Wow.
Yes. Well, then this goes into something else then. If you're going to go with the insanity thing.
Okay.
Originally, and this is one I threw a curveball at you. The vibrator was originally created
I know this one.
As a tool to treat women who had mental illness,
who were hysterical,
and so they would use the vibrator in that area to help.
The doctor's hands were getting tired.
Right.
Women were like, I'm going to go get me a happy ending. And the doctor's were like, this is getting out of hand. Ha ha, out of hand.
So they started using this tool to help women to take care of hysteria, which was masturbation. It's not necessarily masturbation. It's mutual pleasuring. But the doctor would take
orgasms release serotonin and all those good things in your brain, which calms you down.
And was believed to help cure hysteria. So it got to the point that so many women were going to the doctor for hysteria that they started to make them smaller and make them more so that you could bring them home. And next thing you know,
it's a huge industry.
There's rabbits out there.
See, my brain went to rabbits, like actual rabbits.
No, we're not talking about the bunnies.
I knew what you meant, but my first thought was like, they're doing it like rabbits?
No, not like little bunny foo-foo hopping through the forest kind of. We're talking about the actual tool rabbit.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
No endorsement on that one, rabbit. Sorry.
No, sorry, none.
But see, I wasn't expecting you to bring that. Just kind of transitioned into my weird little mind.
See, but it is a weird little mind.
What do you think about the fact that the graham cracker and how science has evolved, where the graham cracker was a cure for masturbation and the vibrator was a treatment for hysteria? What is your thoughts on that?
I think saying the graham cracker was a cure for masturbation to me is stretching the point a little bit. I mean, it was part of a whole bland diet. Fruits,
but originally,
vegetables,
the graham cracker was the original part of that diet. That was the first part, and then it expanded into a full diet.
I'll have to take your word on that one, but yeah,
I did a lot of research on this, and that was a fascinating subject for me.
Apparently, yes. I love graham crackers, frankly. I like to eat graham crackers, but I have never
overdo it, because you could OD on graham crackers, and then you would never have kids.
Yeah, see, I'm trying to think if I've ever sat down and like eaten a package of graham crackers. And by package, I mean one of the little wrapped ones inside, like a box of 4 wrapped packages. I don't think I've ever like overdosed on graham crackers. So
Are you really talking about packages with this segment?
Oh, my Lord. So, Tate.
Yes.
Do you know the connection between graham crackers and cornflakes?
This is one I do not know. I knew you were going to throw that at me. I was kind of curious about this one. Hit me.
I found a corner of the internet that you have not found, and you're going to have to wait until after the break.
Sounds like a plan.
Check out the show built around the women of MMA. From the UFC to the extreme cage fighting, we got the fights covered.
Listen.
It's the Golden State Media Concepts Women's MMA Podcast. The latest news of upcoming fights, discussions of previous matches. Join us as we talk to and about the biggest names in women's mixed martial arts. Past, present, and future. When it's the women's fight game, you know where to listen to. The Golden State Media Concepts Women's MMA Podcast.
Welcome back to the GSMC Weird News Podcast. Before the break, I actually stumped Tate's knowledge. He's actually trying to kill a mosquito in the studio right now, if you heard that thumping and bumping.
It must die.
Okay, so the connection between cornflakes and graham crackers. So followers of Sylvester Graham were called Grahamites. One of the Grahamites was a man named Dr. John Harvey Kellogg.
Oh my God, I did know this.
That makes him sound like a serial killer, John Harvey
That's
Kellogg.
Right. Gotta have 3 names to be a serial killer.
Yeah, he was an adherent to this bland food sexual abstinence diet and edict, but he was also the superintendent of the Battle Creek Sanitarium in Michigan, and he insisted that patients abide by a similar diet. Poor patients. They have to go to a sanitarium and they have to eat this.
Yes, I do know this.
Now, when his brother, Will Keith Kellogg, the sanitarium's bookkeeper, accidentally left cooked wheat out, letting it go stale, the Kelloggs decided to try and force it through the rollers anyway. Instead of softening, the wheat came out hard and in flake form. Dr. Kellogg served the flakes, which were genuinely well received by the sanitarium's patients. Now, Dr. Kellogg was a Grahamite. He followed the diet, but his brother Will was not. And Will saw an opportunity here, so he added a bit of sugar. This caused a rift between himself and his brother because, sugar.
So Frosted Flakes broke those guys up.
Apparently, yeah.
Okay.
And brother Will founded the Kellogg's Corporation.
Boy, that's an interesting one. It's kind of like, screw you, I'll take this recipe and go somewhere else.
And this article went to a sad, dark place at the very end.
What happened at the end?
So Will founded the Kellogg's Corporation, now an $18 billion company. John focused on rehabilitating masturbators and, at times, resorted to mutilation.
The moral of the story is masturbation doesn't pay.
Not in the 1800s.
Not in the 1800s.
Wow. So there you go, your connection between Kellogg's and graham crackers.
So now, ladies and gentlemen, it's better to just go get a bowl of Frosted Flakes. It's when you get those urges.
When you get those urges.
I prefer Fruit Loops, but...
eat a graham cracker and some cornflakes. You dirty-minded little bugger.
Now, think about how science has evolved so much that people were eating graham crackers and Frosted Flakes.
It was cornflakes. They just had a little bit of sugar. I don't think they were Frosted Flakes yet.
I'm calling my shot. I'm calling them Frosted Flakes.
Okay.
They probably had a little tiger on the tongue.
Okay. Are Frosted Flakes even Kellogg's, or are they the other brand?
I think they are. They are Kellogg's. They're Kellogg's. But science went from graham crackers and cornflakes.
Thank you.
As a treatment for masturbation. People used to go to the hospital and go to the doctor for treatment for hysteria, and the doctor would use a vibrator on them. I have arthritis or I have cancer, here's a spoonful of Coke. And I'm talking about Coca-Cola. Yeah, Coca-Cola. And that's one of the things, before I let you guys go on this one. Coca-Cola was not meant as a beverage. It was actually a medicine that turned out to actually not really treat anything that it said it did. It was it was supposed to be this amazing elixir that cured
snake oil,
rheumatism and arthritis and heart disease and everything else. And people were taking it. Imagine you get the flu or pneumonia and someone's giving you a spoonful of Coca-Cola. You are going to die. And so, it's just one of those things where people, when you're looking at science can change because old science don't follow. The moral of the story is don't follow all those old remedies because they don't work.
No, I mean, there's a difference between certain what we might call old wives' tales and what, some of those are actually natural remedies and do work to a certain extent, but others of them not so much.
Yes. So it's just kind of interesting.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was just going to say it's something that used to be believed with Coca-Cola, and it's a little disturbing. There was an old wives' tale that if you douched with Coca-Cola after having sex, you wouldn't get pregnant.
Well,
just wow. I don't usually throw you off.
I had comments, but they're not appropriate for the show.
No.
So,
okay.
Wow.
So what you said you had more questions for me. What else do you have? For me?
No, I was just in general just thinking about that, and you just threw me with the whole cleanup after after sex.
There's all those wives' tales. If you go horseback riding afterward, you won't get pregnant. If you have sex in a hot tub, you won't get pregnant. There's I
knew a girl that actually believed that for a long time until she came up pregnant.
People believe a lot of things.
Yes, so don't believe all those little wives' tales. Or if someone tells you one, like I told Sarah about the graham cracker thing, just don't take their word for it. Like, just nod at them kind of nicely, like, yeah, buddy, okay. And then look it up, and then they'd be like, holy crap, graham crackers were meant for that. Then you come back and be like, you know what, I was wrong.
If you spend any time with Tate, I don't know why you would, being listeners.
Come on, I'm a fun guy. Look me up. Give me a call.
Some guy sitting in, Australia is not necessarily going to hang out with you.
Please, give me excuse to go to Australia. I am in. Australia, New Zealand, those are two countries I've always wanted to go to.
Well, me too, actually.
Never been.
But if you ever spend any time with Tate, look it up is a phrase that he utters at least 22,000 times a day.
And that's because I am king of worthless information.
True.
And so I have these weird things just like I just told you guys today. And no one believed me. So they started looking it up and find out, holy crap, graham crackers.
Graham crackers.
So you were looking something up on your phone?
Oh, I was just looking at the history of Coca-Cola just to see what else I could find.
All right, what did it say about as far as the medicine go? I'm just kind of curious.
I haven't found that part yet, actually. So I'm not sure.
Yes, it was originally a medicine.
I don't disbelieve you, but this says this is the world of Coca-Cola.com, and it says Coca-Cola history began in 1886 when the curiosity of an Atlanta pharmacist. So let me just finish this. Dr. John S. Pemberton led him to create a distinctive tasting soft drink that could be sold at soda fountains. So he was a pharmacist, so maybe he was taking the existing.
Yes, the original product before that. That's how it became a drink afterwards, because the sales went away for the fact that it wasn't really a medicine. It was proven that it didn't do anything. And then from there, I do know this. That's when it ended up at the pharmacy and at the soda fountains as they started mixing it as a drink.
Right.
And then it took off that way. But before that, it was a medicine.
Right. So Dr. Pemberton created a flavored syrup, took it to his neighborhood pharmacy where it was mixed with carbonated water and deemed excellent by those who sampled it. Dr. Pemberton's partner and bookkeeper, Frank M. Robinson, is credited with naming the beverage Coca-Cola, as well as designing the trademarked distinct script still used today.
I love it.
There you go. It is time to probably take another break.
Besides, her voice is kind of going away. I was catching on to that, so I was just kind of wrapping this segment up because my partner is about to become
mute.
Yes.
I need to go get a drink of water. So let me do that. When we come back, we'll have more weird news from the depths of Tate's brain. Stay tuned. You're listening to the GSMC Weird News Podcast, and we will be right back.
Bye.
This is your ultimate stop for everything sports. The Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast. Should I say more? From the NFL, MLB, the NBA to MMA, it's all in here. The Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast. Listen now.
Welcome back to the GSMC Weird News Podcast. We were speaking before the break about Coca-Cola and its history and its origins. Tate, did you have follow-up comments on that?
Well, because we started out talking about graham crackers, and then we rolled into how the vibrator came about. We talked about corn flakes, and now when we left, we started talking about Pepsi and Coca-Cola and how it was created. And what its original purpose was.
Can I just jump in and read the very first sentence of this?
Okay, so we found an article just to kind of back up some of the stuff that I was saying. We were just going online and looking just so I could, because Sarah wasn't expecting these topics. This
line just makes me laugh in light of the graham cracker conversation. Over 100 years ago, people were drinking Coke to feel sexy. So over here, you've got the people eating graham crackers to not feel sexy, and over here, you've got the people drinking Coke to get their sexy on.
No, you are very wrong.
I'm just reading you the first
no,
sentence.
I know, but just go. Start from the top and go right down to the different ones.
Okay, so this is an article called 9 Facts About Coca-Cola's History That Will Make You Go, Whoa, if that's not a clickbait title, I've never heard one.
Love it, though.
The creator of Coke was a colonel in the Confederate Army.
Well, that means he was respected. He was a man of stature.
So John Pemberton, whom we talked about before, served in the Confederate Army during the Civil War, and it was his life-threatening wound that sparked his quest in creating Coke. Pemberton had become addicted to morphine and sought a way to combat this addiction.
All right.
Number 2, the original Coca-Cola prototype was both alcoholic and coked up.
This one's fascinating to me.
So it was labeled as an ideal nerve tonic. In 1885, Pemberton began marketing a beverage called Pemberton's French Wine Coca, a mix of coca, cola nut, and damiana, a flowering shrub that has anti-anxiety and aphrodisiac qualities.
So I guess it did rev you up a little bit. Okay, so go ahead.
Coke is 127 years old. Well, yeah, if it was done in the late 1800s. Coke was originally marketed as a cure to many ailments, including low sexual libido. So it was the anti-graham cracker.
So if you ate too many graham crackers, you could bust open a Coca-Cola, counteract it, you're right back to level.
Who needs Viagra when you have Coke? Pemberton was forced to take the alcohol out of his original Coke wine formula due to prohibition laws, but he first touted that version as a most wonderful invigorator of sexual organs.
Nice. Can you imagine the fact that a Coca-Cola used to have alcohol in it? So that's probably why it kind of boosted up your sexual urges, because you take a girl, split a couple of Coca-Colas with you, and everyone's all tipsy.
Lowered. Once he launched Coca-Cola, though, he called the drink a brain tonic and temperance drink, saying it cured headaches, anxiety, depression, indigestion, and addiction. Well, yeah, it cured headaches. It's got caffeine in it.
Right, but it's a medicine. See, as I told you, that's what it was originally created for.
The cocaine was removed from the drink in 1903.
Okay.
But here's a fun fact. Cocaine.
Wait, think about this. Before 1903, it had cocaine, caffeine, and alcohol in it.
Yeah, your body didn't know what to do.
You are partying your butt off.
But in 1903, cocaine was still legal.
Okay.
It wasn't outlawed until 1914. I did not realize that.
Okay.
It was originally sold at 5 cents a glass.
That's probably top dollar back then.
That's roughly the equivalent of $1.26 today, depending on when this article was written.
Okay.
Coca-Cola has always been creative with advertising, so much so that some think they shaped the public's vision of Santa Claus. I have heard that. Norman Rockwell created art for Coca ads. I knew that.
Knew about that.
Loved
yes, absolutely.
Norman Rockwell. In the 1930s, Coke created Christmas ads depicting a jolly red-suited Santa. And although other depictions of Santa were part of pop culture history, Coke had a huge role in shaping our image of Saint Nick. I know that Saint Nick was portrayed in green most often before Coca-Cola got a hold of him.
Very different. Even when you look at some of the Santas now, I mean, the old ones, they look so different than before Coke.
Coke has had a role in race relations.
Okay, let me hit me on this one.
In 1899, Coca-Cola became available in bottles as well as soda fountains, which means that there was a shift in consumer demographics. Explains The Atlantic, minorities who couldn't get into the segregated soda fountains suddenly had access to it. It's suggested in a New York Times article that the removal of cocaine from the formula was sparked by racial tensions. Southern newspapers reported that Negro cocaine friends, oh Lord.
Wow.
Negro cocaine fiends, I'm sorry. One letter.
That's totally different kind of crew.
Were raping white women and the police were powerless to stop them.
So that's what they were saying about Coca-Cola.
Yeah. By 1903, the then manager of Coca-Cola, Asa Griggs Candler, had bowed to white fears and a wave of anti-narcotics legislation, removing the cocaine and adding more sugar and caffeine.
Oh, so it had less sugar in it than back then.
Right, yeah, because it had cocaine.
Yes. Well, it didn't need anything else.
Wow. But on a more positive note, Coke was also present during the civil rights movement in the 50s because, when you were integrating soda fountains that were very popular then, so activists, including Martin Luther King, would often stage sit-ins at Coke selling soda fountains. And number 9, the final fact, Coke invented the six-pack. Not the abs.
I was going to say, well, hell, a few years ago, I should have had a six-pack then, because the only kind of six-pack I'm carrying is a six-pack of Coke.
It was in 1923, and the company began selling bottles and packages of 6, which then became common practice in the beverage industry. So I had no idea that we were going to go from graham crackers to cornflakes to Coca-Cola in this episode. You never know.
It was one of those things, what's going to be in my head? And so I had to take you down the rabbit hole that is my head of worthless information there.
We should title this episode, something about your head. Weird facts from Tate's brain.
I say we call it graham crackers. It's not just for breakfast anymore. No, it's just not for kids anymore. Yeah.
So, if you really want to confuse your body, eat some graham crackers and lower your libido, and then drink some Coke and amp it up.
Yes. Also, do you know one other thing about Coke?
What?
That around the world, it's not the same recipe.
Yes, I did know that.
Africa has its own version of Coke. Because Mexico has its own version of Coke. Yes.
It depends on regulations in each country. So, in this country, we're only allowed to have so much sugar in Coke. But in Mexico, holy sugar, Batman.
Well, the American version uses high fructose corn syrup. Right. Where the other one uses regular cane sugar. Mm-hmm. Which actually, I think the Mexican Coke, or I've always known it being called the Mexican Coke, but I don't know. It's the south of the border Coke, just to be politically correct. It's actually
that sounds like it would be something else. Coca-Cola we're talking about right now.
It actually tastes way better, a lot better. But then the African version is sweetened by something else, but just kind of throwing in another little side thing that just kind of came up there.
Yeah. That makes me now, I'm going to have to go look up Coca-Cola recipes from around the world. And on that note, I think that we're going to wrap this episode up because Tate's brain, too scary to stay in for long.
Thank you for visiting the depths of my mind.
Please exit in an orderly fashion and mind the gap. Thank you for joining us for this episode of Weird News. Please join us next time, and we'll see what comes about.
Sounds good.
Stay weird.
Bye.